In today's episode, Shane asks, what's the validity of domain authority in the current SEO landscape where Google is telling us to focus on EAT, expertise, authority, and trust? Should I be concerned about measuring domain authority, or is it more of a metric that does more to stroke ego like media impressions? So this is a really good question because it requires a little bit of data homework. Domain authority or domain rating or domain strength are arbitrary metrics put together by various SEO tool vendors, Moz, AHREFS, SpyFu, SEMrush, etc., to give you some shorthand about how important that domain overall is. So how do we do this? How do we go about turning an arbitrary metric into something that we can potentially get use out of? Let's go ahead and flip this around here. To do this, we're going to need a whole bunch of data, and we're going to need to understand at a very basic level, is there any mathematical relationship between whatever your tool's domain authority measure is called and an outcome we actually care about? Now, for the most part, we're going to care about organic search traffic, right? That's the metric that is probably most meaningful to marketers because it means we actually got people to the front door, right? So we're going to use the R programming language for this. You can use the statistical tool of your choice, IBM Watson Studio, SPSS, R, Python, doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, let's run all the prerequisites here so we can get all of our libraries loaded. And then we're going to load in a whole bunch of exports from the AHREFS tool. And the exports I'm using are essentially articles with the most common what are called stop words in the English language. The, or, and, a, in, as, you, etc. These are going to give us a wide selection of content, not just any one particular industry. I'm looking also at articles this year published within calendar year 2020 with working links. Now, what I've done is I've taken every metric they have and exported about 10,000 links per different metric because we want to see is there more than just domain rating or domain authority we want to look at. Let's get rid of some row numbers here, and then let's add in a days old just for fun to see if the age of the article matters. We're going to load our correlation plot library, remove numbers that are not variables that are not numbers. You'll see in the original data set here, there are things like the article title, the URL, the author, and those are not necessarily things that, at least for this experiment, we particularly care about. So let's go ahead and then set any NAs, which means not available, to 0, and run a correlation. We're going to run a Spearman correlation test. There's Pearson, Spearman, and what's the other one? I can't remember his name. Pearson correlations are good for normal distributions where there's a bell curve of results. For marketing data, most of the time, most marketing data looks like a power law curve, where, or the Pareto rule, 80-20 rule. And so you want to use a Spearman correlation most of the time. And let's remove the results of variables correlating to themselves because that doesn't help anybody. And let's draw a plot. Okay, let's zoom in here. Now what we're looking for is, there's our domain rating variable, and we're looking for numbers in this section, really a 0.25 or better. That indicates a weak moderate correlation, or minus 0.25, weak negative correlation. Basically, we're looking for any correlation to major numbers that we care about. Now the one that we really care about is this one, the traffic number, right? Is there a relationship between domain rating and that organic traffic? And the answer is no. There absolutely isn't. 0.008 Spearman correlation. That pretty much says there's no relationship between domain rating in this tool and the outcome we care about. Now, question is, what relationship is there between traffic that would be important? Number one here is referring domains, right? Referring domains, 0.59. That's a very strong correlation between traffic, which is the outcome we care about, and referring domains. What else we got here? We've got 0.42 median number of social shares. That's interesting. Most of the time, there isn't a strong correlation between social shares and SEO, but in this particular set of 72,000 URLs, there is. That, I think, bears some more investigation. And then next on the list here is number of words. That's another interesting word, 0.38 Spearman correlation. Again, we know that there is a bias in some types of algorithms in search towards longer form content, and this for this data set seems to bear that out. Now, bear in mind, let's go ahead and flip out of here. Bear in mind a couple things with what it is that we've just analyzed. We took a very generic data set from a single SEO tool, the AHREFS tool in this case, and we did a Spearman correlation to see, with the outcome we care about, does domain rating matter? For this example, the answer is no. But there are some caveats on this. Number one, this is not niche specific, right? This is not industry specific. Instead of using "the" as your keyword term, you might want to use a piece of industry jargon from your industry and run this exact same analysis for your industry to see if there's something specific in your world that matters much more than the generic English language words. Number two caveat is that each SEO tool out there does its domain authority equivalent rating differently. They have different behind-the-scenes algorithms. Moz has domain authority. I think SEMrush has domain strength. AHREFS has domain rating. So you'll need to rerun these results with exactly the same technique, but exported from the tool that you use, because it may turn out that another vendor has a reasonably good domain authority equivalent. This particular vendor's domain rating doesn't really mean anything compared to the organic traffic outcome. And sidebar on that, if your vendor doesn't provide you an organic traffic number, then you can't really do this analysis because you don't know what outcome it is you're going after. So make sure whatever vendor you use, there's a traffic outcome as well. That way, you're benchmarking against something meaningful. Now, as we all know, correlation is not causation, right? Just because an article is longer does not mean that it will likely get you more organic traffic, right? It means there's a relationship between the two. So, as with all good data science, once you have some kind of answer here, in this case, we did that. We found median shares was interesting. We found number of words was interesting. Your next step is not to immediately change your strategy. Your next step is to set up an experiment. Start testing. If we produce, longer blog posts, let's say you do a blog twice a week. Every other blog is a longer post by a meaningful amount. Like if you normally blog 300 words, your every other post this month should be 600 words. And then at the end of the month, you check and see, did you see a relationship between longer posts and more organic search traffic? You may not. We don't know. You won't know until you do the test. So that's your next step, is to test out and make sure that a correlation has a corresponding causation through your testing. So keep that in mind as well. In this case, my conclusion is for this data set, domain rating or domain authority isn't a meaningful metric here. You have to test on your own. Don't rely on just a generic test like we just did to draw the conclusion for yourself. Test for yourself, find out for yourself, and then you can go ahead and publish for your industry or your clients what it is that works best for your niche. So really good question. I wanted to show this as an example of the kind of work that you would need to do to make that analysis so that you can get an answer that's customized for you rather than a generic, because a generic answer may not be applicable to your industry. As always, please leave your questions in the comment box below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Want help solving your company's data analytics and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.